Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.
Good morning everyone. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 30th August 2021. Okay, let us see which are the, yes, good morning. Let us see which are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. These are the important developments. Let us take overview of all these articles. First, mains related developments on page number 6, editorial page. Infrastructure development and eco-conservation should go hand in hand. So this particular editorial, it is talking about the hydroelectric power plants in Uttarakhand and the infrastructure development, how it is impacting the fragile ecology of the Himalayas, especially the Uttarakhand state. So it is having the context that recently the state government has allowed to go further or continue the hydroelectricity projects in the state. So the article is analyzing this issue from GS1 paper, geography part, as well as GS3 paper, environment section and disaster management. Okay, next, indemnity clause and accountability of the vaccine manufacturers. So yes, earlier also we have discussed about this indemnity clause. Again, it will be some kind of revision. We have to understand what is this indemnity clause that the US vaccine manufacturers like Moderna and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, they are asking from the Indian government, why Indian government is delaying such decisions. At the same time, the present legal structure or the legal responsibility that India's laws are having towards these manufacturers. All these aspects we will discuss from GS2 paper, COVID-19 and governance aspect. Okay. Then, oil palm plan is ripe for disaster, experts warn. So yes, yesterday itself in ED lecture we had discussed in detail about this oil palm cultivation, the national mission on edible oils and oil palms recently launched by the government, and what are the concerns associated with the oil palm cultivation in northeastern states and Andaman Nicobar Islands. So this is important from GS3 paper, environment section and economy aspect. Then India Russia to expand Central Asia ties, India's envoy to Russia. There is exclusive interview with the envoy and he is talking about India and Russia relations. Okay, so we will have follow up on bilateral relations between India and Russia here. GS2 paper, international relations. Then Niti Aayog bats for tax breaks to achieve monetization goal. So yes, Niti Aayog sponsored project of national monetization pipeline that recently the finance minister has unveiled, and it is talking about need of providing tax breaks to these projects or we can say infrastructure investment trust. At the same time, it is also talking about bringing all these trusts under IBC proceedings. Okay, so we will have follow up from GS3 paper, economy part. Okay, and for prelims related developments we can say China to require foreign vessels to report in territorial waters. So it has mentioned about that 9- line. We will understand how this territorial waters, what is that 9- line is talking about in South China Sea. Okay. So, and finally prelims related MCQs for practice purpose. Yes. So first editorial on page number 6, a fine line. It is talking about the hydroelectricity projects and the impact of fragile ecology in Uttarakhand. Okay, so yes, first of all you should understand that in recent times there had been many such instances of landslip, avalanche, which is impacting on loss of life and property. Along with that, it is also impacting the ongoing hydroelectricity branch projects. For example, in February 2021 this year, there was avalanche in Chamoli district of Uttarakhand, and it has not only resulted into loss of life of 200 people, including some of the workers in 2 power projects. So we have seen such kind of instances that are happening in the Himalayan states like Uttarakhand, and that's why the environmentalists, the experts are of concern that go ahead to such kind of hydro projects in Uttarakhand will result into more such instances. We have to also analyze that the future of hydro project is closely linked to NMCG program of the government. How it is linked to NMCG? We have to understand the concept called as eco flow into the rivers, that is ecological flow. Eco flow or ecological flow into the rivers, that is minimum amount of volume of water that should be flowing into the river throughout the year for maintenance of river ecology. Okay, and building such hydro projects obstructing the river flow will affect the eco flow or ecological flow of Ganga river. Okay, so Ganga river and other its tributaries also. So that's why this NMCG, National Mission for Clean Ganga program, which talks about maintaining ecological flow, reduction in pollution in the Ganga river, and conservation and preservation protection to river ecology. Okay, so this is also linked to NMCG. At the same time, you should understand that the expert committees are divided over whether there should be go ahead to hydro projects or not here. Some of the expert committees, like for example after 2013 Kedarnath floods that happened, so after that Supreme Court had instituted one committee which recommended that all of the hydro projects should be scrapped. While later on the government also instituted one expert committee which talked about some of the projects should be given approval. Okay, so there is division among the experts also. At the same time, there is division among the different ministries of the government also. How? For example, we can say that the Jal Shakti Ministry which implements this NMCG program, which opposes such kind of hydro projects in the Uttarakhand. However, the Power Ministry is in favor of having such hydro projects in Uttarakhand. Okay, so there is a divided opinion among the ministries itself, and therefore as a part of way forward, surely there will be demand for infrastructure development. Power demands are also there for the electricity in the state. So for that purpose, what we can say that in the way forward, so yes, small hydropower projects or runoff river projects should be implemented. Then we can say that if suppose the project is having huge impact on the environment, on the surrounding region, there is going to be huge deforestation, there is in future chances of landslips or the dam being broken in future. So such kind of study evaluation should be done for all types of hydro projects, even if they are given go ahead in that region. The second aspect, you should understand that for the power demands, there is need of other sustainable sources. Basically, the states need to, we can say that, import the power in that region. Rather than building such large dams, if suppose the power demands increases, then we can say that the electricity should be, we can say, imported from the other state. Okay, so in this manner you should provide the way forward, but large hydropower projects is not at all, we can say, the way forward for Uttarakhand or Himachal Pradesh, such having the fragile ecology. So whenever you are writing the way forward in your examination, always give such opinion in the way forward. Fine? Okay. Any question? Okay. Now moving on to next article on page number 6, it talks about seize this opportunity to institutionalize accountability. Okay, so what kind of accountability it is talking about? Accountability of the vaccine manufacturers. So it is talking about the indemnity clause and holding pharma companies accountable. Okay, so the context here is that recently our drug regulator has given emergency use authorization to Moderna and Johnson & Johnson vaccines, but their availability in India at present, there is uncertainty over that. Okay, why? Because these companies are asking for indemnity clause in the contracts and the government is not taking decision yet on that particular clause. So that's why the supply over this supply of these vaccines, there is some kind of uncertainty. Now what is this indemnity? Indemnity is basically, we can say, the waiver from legal responsibility, or we can say legal liability and proceedings from the claims of people, who may have, we can say, adverse event following immunization, AEFI. The appropriate word is AEFI, adverse event following immunization. So suppose a person is having adverse events following the immunization and the person claims the compensation or the legal liability against the manufacturers. So for that purpose the manufacturers are concerned here. So they do not want to own that responsibility here. Okay, so that's why they are asking such waiver from that, that is called as indemnity. Now why they are asking for indemnity? First thing, we should understand that whatever the drug approval or the vaccine approval is given by the apex authority in the country, that is only given after addressing the safety concerns of the drug or vaccine. However, when we are talking about this COVID-19 vaccine, there can be long term, we can say, adverse effect, and at present we are not aware about such adverse effect. So there is possibility of the adverse effect, and therefore the people may claim the compensation. First thing, that's why they are concerned here. Then second thing, we should understand that these companies in their origin state, origin country like US, so they have some kind of indemnity clause with their home country's government. At the same time, the COVAX facility of Gavi and WHO, so they are also providing some kind of indemnity clause while to these manufacturers. Okay, so that's why they are demanding this indemnity clause. The other countries to which these companies, manufacturers, they are exporting these vaccines, they are also having indemnity clause in their contracts. Okay, so that's why they are asking for indemnity. Now what are the existing provisions in India and why government is delaying decisions in providing indemnity to these manufacturers? So first of all, the existing provisions in India, so regarding such kind of indemnity. So at present, the government immunization program, like for example Indradhanush program is there. So through that government immunization program, there is no indemnity clause for the government or the government manufacturers, public sector manufacturers. However, the private sector manufacturers, they have legal liability in India for any kind of adverse effects. Okay, so this first thing. Second thing, you should understand that in terms of, let's say, drug regulator in India, so it can hold manufacturer accountable if it finds the, let's say, issues in the clinical trials or suppose the manufacturer has violated the legal provisions under that Drug and Cosmetic Act of 1940, okay, then it can hold the manufacturer accountable. So this provision is also there. So existing provisions regarding, we can say, indemnity or holding the manufacturers accountable, all these provisions are there. But why government is delaying the decisions regarding providing indemnity? First thing is that we know that the imports of these vaccines will be negligible. Okay, so present government's focus is largely on the indigenous, whatever the domestic production of Covishield or Covaxin is there. Okay, so or even the other Russian vaccine like Sputnik. Okay, so whatever the imports will be there of these Johnson and Johnson and Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, so they will be negligible as compared to domestic production. Second thing is that if indemnity is provided to these manufacturers, then domestic manufacturers like SII, Serum Institute of India, they will also ask for indemnity clause. They will also pressurize the government for inclusion of this indemnity clause. Okay, so this is the major problem here. Now, after understanding this, besides or beyond indemnity, India does have mechanisms in the current legal frameworks to ensure safety and legal remedy for any harm. So what are these remedies? First thing we should understand in terms of remedies, that the people can go to consumer court or high courts for compensation. In India we have such kind of procedure. Second thing we should understand, that if suppose individual claim is not entertained, then we can say that the common claims of group of people so government can file suit on behalf of them in High Court or Supreme Court. In this manner, we should understand there are alternative measures also, and therefore we should understand that even if the indemnity is not given, the people may get compensation, but ultimately we should understand that the immediate compensation will be asked from the government itself. Okay, so the government is having that concern, we can say that. So what government should do here is examining the safeguards instituted by countries which have granted indemnity to the manufacturers. For example, in US there is CICP. What is the CICP? Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program. So which are the provisions of this CICP? We should understand that, examine that, and according to India's, let's say, relevance, they should be included in our indemnity clause if it is allowed to these manufacturers. Okay, so in this manner we should understand whatever the indemnity clause given by the COVAX facility or UK government, US government to these manufacturers, that should be studied, that should be understood, and the relevant clause should be included in India's contract with these manufacturers. Okay, so ultimately the safety of the people and the legal liability and accountability of these manufacturers should be the ultimate aim of the government policy with regard to this issue. Okay, any question? Fine. Now moving on to next article. Yes, oil palm plan is recipe for disaster. It is warned by the environmentalists and some of the representatives of the people from the northeast India. So yesterday itself we have discussed this as a ED topic in detail. I hope that ED batch students, they remember all these things. It will be a kind of revision for you. Yes. So palm oil currently makes up to whopping 55% of India's edible oil imports. This can be written factual information in your answer, and that's why the government has come up with one mission here, new mission, National Mission on Edible Oil and Oil Palms. Remember this, National Mission on Edible Oil and Oil Palms. So it seeks to we can say bring new areas for the oil palm cultivation, for the self-reliance and reducing the imports of this palm oil. Now there are concerns. Which are the concerns? The concerns that are raised by the environmentalists: the widespread destruction of rainforest and native biodiversity that is experienced in the some of the highest palm oil cultivated areas in the equatorial forest regions like Indonesia, Malaysia. From that, the similar kind of, let's say, forest may be removed here, and the loss of biodiversity may happen in the northeastern states and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. At the same time, the impact on community ownership of tribal lands. We know that the northeastern India is having vast variety of ethnic community, tribal people, and their community ownership over these forest lands will be at loss because of such land being brought under cultivation of oil palm. Now we know that oil palm is water guzzling, that is water intensive crop. Around 300 liter amount of water is required in one single day for one oil palm tree here. This is how the water intensive nature is there. At the same time, the monoculture crop with long gestation period, that is the harvest happens after 4 years. So 4 years to 7 years are required for the harvest, and we can say this is unsuitable for small farmers. Small farmers do not have such kind of water resources, access to the water resources, as well as we can say it is harmful for, or we can say it is not going to give much returns when such long gestation period is there. Then high pesticide use required for this crop is not, we can say that, suitable for the consumer health. So there will be some concerns related to that aspect also. In Andhra Pradesh, which currently grows more than 90% of India's oil palm, farmers depend on bore wells irrigation. So it is impacting groundwater table. Okay, so rampant extraction of groundwater has resulted into decline in groundwater table in that areas. High levels of investment and long wait for high returns tend to attract large corporate investors, and small farmers are not going to benefit. You know, some of the MPs or the environmentalists are also saying that this is a recipe for those corporates like Patanjali of Baba Ramdev, or you can say that Adani, which is also investing into the agriculture sector. So those large corporates are having some kind of avenues to invest in this type of oil palm cultivation. So it is not going to benefit small farmers. Try to understand this. So there is some kind of case study from Sri Lanka. We can take input here. Sri Lanka has recently disallowed oil palm with announcement recently in May month to raise existing plantations and ban palm oil imports also, as the crop has replaced more environmentally friendly and employment generating plantation crops, dried up local streams, and showed signs of becoming invasive species threatening native plants and animals. This is how it is impacting water resources, it is impacting biodiversity of region, it is impacting the, let's say, land ownership of the tribal people. It is also impacting, we can say that, resulting into greenhouse gas emissions also because of forest clearance and reducing carbon sinks also. Fine. So in this manner we should understand the concerns related to oil palm here. Okay. Now, India, Russia to expand Central Asia ties, envoy. So there is interview of India's envoy to Russia, and he is talking about the in future near relations with Russia, how progress is going to happen. So we are expecting to conclude bilateral logistic agreement, reciprocal exchange of logistic agreement, RELOS. Remember this name because we have similar kind of logistic exchange agreement with US also. Okay, so RELOS, reciprocal exchange of logistic agreement, and Navy to Navy cooperation MOU, memorandum of understanding, when Russian defense minister is going to visit India later this year. At the same time, there will be first such 2+2 ministerial dialogue during the visit of the defense minister. 2+2 ministerial dialogue. This is, we can say, India is having such kind of dialogue with US, Japan also. It involves the foreign minister and defense minister. Okay, so that's why 2+2 ministerial dialogue, right? Also, it has said that India is going to implement the S-400 system contract with US. Okay, at the same time, the situation in Afghanistan impacts both India and Russia, and normal interstate relations, especially with respect to Central Asia, with additional threats emanating from drug trafficking, organized crime, and flow of refugees. So it is, let's say, a common concern for India and Russia to ensure peace and stability in Afghanistan. Fine. So in this manner, have follow-up for India-Russia bilateral relations. So whenever the defense minister meet will happen of Russian defense minister, when he is coming in India, we'll have again follow-up regarding this. Okay. Now moving on, Niti Aayog bats for tax breaks to achieve monetization goal. So what Niti Aayog is saying here, to achieve this national monetization pipeline program. So expansion of investor base and scale of monetization instruments such as infrastructure investment trust and real estate investment trust is a key imperative. Okay, so through that the government is trying to monetize the assets. Now, tax efficient and user friendly mechanisms needed to attract investors. Why investors will invest in those trusts? When they will receive some kind of benefits. How, for example, tax breaks should be granted on capital gains for those investing in these trusts to enthuse retail investors. Okay, so tax breaks will incentivize these investors to invest in those trusts, and further those trusts can be used for monetizing the assets. Then these trusts should be included under the insolvency and bankruptcy code, IBCs. So through that inclusion, it will provide more clarity, more reliability, and we can say an added comfort to investors to invest in those trusts. In this manner, you should have follow up on this monetization pipeline project that the government is implementing. So yes, in ED lecture also we are going to have detailed discussion about this monetization, asset monetization plan of the government. Okay. Yes. China to require foreign vessels to report in territorial waters. Now this is new development here. Yes, Chinese authorities said that they will require range of vessels to report their information when passing through what China sees as its territorial waters starting from 1st September. At present, we do not know how it is going to be implemented. However, we should understand some facts. Over $5 trillion trade passes through the South China Sea, and 55% of India's trade pass through its waters and Malacca Strait. So we need to secure this India's trade also in South China Sea. Now we should understand that territorial waters is the concept that is included in United Nations Convention of Law of Seas, and that is up to only 12 nautical miles from the baseline. That is only up to 12 nautical miles. But what China considered as its baseline is this 9 dash line. Look at this red color line. China consider this as China's, we can say, baseline, or whatever the waters are there inside this, the China will call it as territorial waters. And this is how in future we are expecting more conflicts because of this step of China in South China Sea. We are not yet clear how China is going to implement that, but we can expect in future some kind of notification regarding this 9 dash line itself. You should understand that under UNCLOS, this 9 dash line is not recognized. Okay, so this is informal or voluntary claim of China itself that 9 dash line is the legal line for claiming all those resources or this area in the South China Sea by China. Okay, so just you should remember that what is this 9 dash line in South China Sea. This can be asked in the prelims examination. Okay, so yes, what should be answer to this question? Okay, so there should be, this should be fourth point here. Okay, yes, so we are talking about the possible negative effects of oil palm cultivation in northeastern Indian states. Such kind of question can be asked in prelims examination. Okay, so here, yes, groundwater depletion may happen, yes, reduction in forest area, yes, reduction in biodiversity of the area, yes, we know that northeastern India is having high biodiversity, that may reduce because of introduction of oil palm cultivation. Loss of community ownership of tribal people may also happen. So that's why yes, all of this is the correct answer. Okay, yes. So these were important articles. Any question?
Sir, this much of loss has been going to be occurred due to the elimination of oil palm cultivation in India. Then why should India is going to be forward way in the cultivation? Only they are going to be point outing we have shortage of oil only. The remaining will not able to consider the remaining point.
Yes, because of just large imports, we have to substitute that import. It is resulting into let's say huge import bill also. Second thing, we should understand that the government has done some study, and it is saying that Andaman and Nicobar Islands, some of the islands are having some grasslands and they can be cleared for oil palm cultivation instead of clearing the forest. Okay, so that study is there for Andaman and Nicobar Island. The government is also claiming that whatever the area it has decided for oil palm cultivation in northeastern India, that is also wasteland and it is not forested land. So it is not going to result into deforestation. This is the claim of government at present. But this is not going to be the, let's say, constant thing for many years to come. This is going to expand in future. Okay, so whatever the area that is demarcated, that area may expand in future and that may result into forest clearance, right? So this should be understood as a long term impact. So in future we can understand that there may be some kind of resistance and the government may drop such plans here.
Sir, it may cause to greenhouse gas effects also on the people.
Yes.
That's one of these two. We are giving the chance to rising of greenhouse gases by cultivating of these lands in present to what there is a problem.
Yes, that is also major problem, but we can say that unless and until we are not we can say felling the trees for that oil palm cultivation, then there is no problem. If we are allowing that oil palm cultivation only on the westlands and on the present agriculture land itself. If we are asking the farmers to grow the oil palm in their lands, farmlands, then that is fine. But that should be again informed decision. This should be choice of farmers themselves.
Sir, we have the alternative seeds is there, the sunflower and some of the another seeds is there for the oil production. Present market is going to be near to palm oil and remaining seed oil is the same is going running, sir. Then why not they are not implementing
Yes.
cultivation seeds?
The problem is that other oil seeds, they are having low productivity as compared to oil palm cultivation. Oil palm is having almost 3 times high productivity as compared to soybean or sunflower and other such oil seeds. That's why we want to use that opportunity here. Okay. Yes. Any other question? Okay, then let us stop. We will meet tomorrow at the same time. Yesterday's The Hindu analysis will be provided as a recorded video. Fine. Thank you.
Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.